Joining me this evening is motorcycle racer Martin Jessopp. So, Martin, how have you been getting on, I suppose, firstly throughout the coronavirus lockdown, and how's the new normal been?
It's been all right, to be honest. I've been sort of just getting on with it and loving it. You know what I mean? It was strange at the start, wasn't it, when we were all sort of locked down and allowed to go out for an hour a day, and that was strange. It was because there's a building site opposite my house. They're building a big primary school, so I was sort of locked down doing my hour exercise a day and that, and everyone over the road was just carrying on working, so that was a bit frustrating. But I only had to have a few weeks off, and then I was sort of back into work. So quite enjoyed it at the start, but then it sort of come a bit mundane then, didn't it? But it's sort of just getting used to it all again, aren't they? They just announced tonight that there's going to be another sort of 6 months till it's really going to be back to normal. So it's just like you said, it's the new normal now, isn't it?
It's just a waiting game. So going back a little bit now and going on to the topic of motorbikes. So how did you, I suppose, get involved in motorbikes? Was it within your family, or did you was this just completely out of the blue?
No, I've like most of the guys that race, it was it's in the blood. My old man, got bike shop. He raced as a kid. And then grass track as he got older, done a bit of road racing, dabbled in that, but so it was always going to happen. I was riding motorbikes, before I can remember, racing motocross soon as I was allowed to at 6, and then into road racing when I was a teenager. So it's a bit sad, really. It's the same for me. It's my daughter. She doesn't know any different. She's been riding since she was sort of 3 years old, and she's races motocross now. So definitely in the blood.
A family affair.
Yeah.
So just like many, you started off, as you say, on the tracks, and you raced a little bit in the British Superbike and Supersport. I think you did nearly all the classes, did you, at one point?
Yeah,
so, and then you progressed obviously onto the roads. So was this kind of a natural progression from the track onto the roads, or like what was the plan? Was this the plan to go road racing, or?
No, definitely not. There was never a plan. It was all sorts short circuit racing for me, and I didn't have any interest in the roads. It sort of come about. I was teammates with Stuart Easton in 2005 and 2006, and Stuart had done the Northwest before, and he wanted to go to the Northwest in 2006 on the Supersport on our Ducatis, because they are proper weapon bikes. And like, to be honest, didn't really know anything about it. Road racing, didn't know much about it. And they said, just come over for the crack, and come have a look at the track. So, Mervyn flew us over and looked after us, and that went out, and sort of, there was no pressure on me. It was all on, it was all about Stuart. So I thought, just, go give it an entry, and you know what I mean, just go out on the lash for a week like it used to be out on Northwest. And then, I fell in love with it, as soon as I got there. And that was it. But that was all I did. I sort of did it. I did a year on, had a year off, year off for a few years. But TT wise, it was never, even when I was doing the Northwest on and off for a few years, I never even really considered the TT, and all the mates I was racing with at the time, James Hilliers and Gary Johnsons and co. I said, you've got to do the TT. It's the best thing you'll ever do, and that. And I didn't even when I was doing the Northwest, I didn't know anything about the TT. I didn't know if Bray Hill was uphill or downhill. I knew nothing. Yeah. I knew it was, a race that they went off one by one. John won all the time, and didn't really see it as racing, to be honest, because you're on your own. So didn't pay too much attention until a few years later on, when Michael Rutter was my teammate in 2010. And 11, and then I think it was 11 that Michael, he went to the TT again. He was my teammate, and so I wasn't riding, and so I went over there then, and that was when my first experience of the TT. Never watched it on TV and nothing, not even didn't know anything about it, and then went over there, and then Michael said, first night of practice, get down the bottom of Bray Hill, take the paddock bike down, and see what you think. He says you'll know whether you shit your pants when the first bike comes down, or if you love it and you want to do it. And then sure enough, the bike's come down, and I was like, mate, get me out there. This is a bit of me. And sort of took a road bike out, hooned it across the mountain, didn't have a clue where I was going, riding like an idiot. And yeah, it was just a matter of time then until I was going to do my first year.
I suppose then coming from that, like not having a clue, as you say, if Berry Hill was uphill or downhill, and then going and looking back on your success there, I suppose, you know, you got you're in the top 10 finish in the senior. I think was it a 7th was your best result in the senior TT.
Yeah.
Like I suppose looking back now, you must be fairly happy with what you achieved around the mountain course.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was because even when I was going there, I was still, you know, I didn't do that many laps. I went there the first year I went. It was me, Pete Hickman, and Danny Webb were sort of like the sort of high-profile newcomers, if you call it. And I hadn't done that much homework because I still had still doing my British Superbikes. You know, I've got a daughter, you know, family at home, so I didn't have very much time to go away and learn all the track in that. So I still, you know, when I went there with a heap of pressure, as did the other newcomers, because we're all, you know, quite successful at the Northwest 200 and Macau. So there's a lot of pressure on us. But yeah, I still didn't take it too seriously. You know what I mean? You know what you want to do while you're a racer, and you've got sort of targets in your head. But I still didn't know whether I was going to go there and enjoy it or not. And I remember my first ever lap with Milky, you know, behind him, and it was mint. And then I come in, and then you go off for your first lap on your own. I didn't, you know what I mean, still didn't really know where I was going, and but loved it, yeah. And it was awesome. And yeah, I only had 5 years at the TT, you know, before I sort of hung my boots up full time. But yeah, what 5 years? Yeah, I loved it. You know, when you piece together a good lap round there's nothing better in the world.
And obviously, you know, you've the 2 weeks that you go for. And I suppose the first year that you went, you were probably learning like all throughout that week. Like you say, you didn't really know a whole lot about the place. But kind of after the 5 years, did you feel like every year you were going back, you were more confident in places that maybe you weren't the previous year, and you were kind of, I suppose everyone, like the more you do something, you are going to get better on it. But was it like that for you? Like when you were going back year after year, were you getting more confident?
Yeah, it was definitely. You know, the first night was always a big shock. You know, going through like places like Kirkmichael, and even pretty much every lap you go through Kirkmichael, it's just like, and through the Ginger Hall section on the bumps, it's always a massive shock. But you sort of get used to it every night as the fortnight goes on, and every year. But every night, the first night of practice is just mental. You know what I mean? You just go in every year. But even in my 5th year, my last year, you know, doing 131-hour laps, still going through Kirkmichael and a few places thinking, how are we allowed to do this? This is mental. You know, it's the best job in the world. I get paid to come over. You're going to shut the island for me and the other racers so we can just hoon around the island. It's just like, you know, it's pinch yourself moment. But yeah, it gets me excited now thinking about it. It's a magic place.
And to break the 130 mile per hour barrier as well, that was an achievement in itself.
Always, you know, when you get to that, you know, every rider sort of wants to get there. But, you know, Pete and the boys, you know, 5 mile an hour over that now, and in 5 years be more. So, you know, it doesn't mean much, you know, as time goes on. But, you know, for me personally, it was awesome. And also how effortlessly you know, the faster you go, it does, I mean, doesn't feel like, you know, first night of practice and you go out and do 126, 127, that feels like 135. And then when you're doing your laps in the senior and you're going a lot faster, it comes easier.
And then just going back to 2017, your first road race win was at the Northwest 200. I think was it later on in the day you ended up getting another win on the day of your first win?
Yeah.
And so what was that kind of like, I suppose, the atmosphere at the Northwest, because it is kind of the pinnacle of motorbike racing, especially in the North. Like, you know, what was it like, I suppose, winning your first road race at an international event?
It was a massive weight off my shoulders, you know, because I've been there so many years and being fast, you know, qualified on pole, front rows, and, you know, just had so many problems, you know, when I was on the front row years ago, back when I was with Michael Rutter. You know, race day got cancelled and then I had to miss a year, come back. And there's always I always had so much potential there, but just never just managed to piece it together. Then that Thursday evening, you know, we managed to get a couple of wins that night. And then, you know, in amongst one of the best super sport races they've ever had there, you know, with sort of half a dozen of us battling. But yeah, so Northwest is, you know, I mean, and when I stopped racing in 2018 was my last year. The 19 last year, I went straight back over to watch because a load of my mates from home had already booked up, even though I secretly knew in my head it was going to be my last year. So we just went over for the crack, and not blowing smoke up anyone's ass. But I've always said it my whole life, I mean, the Northern Ireland fans are the best, fans in the world for motorcycles, and I love it. Everyone's just up for the crack all the time, aren't they? And back in the day, it used to be a bit of a holiday race for me in the first few years. You could go over there and go out and practice and that, and whatever happened, you're off to the Anchor and that at night for a lap and that. It's a completely different world to the championship, and it still is. But as I started getting faster, and the pressure came with sponsors, and getting paid good money to do good results, you can't quite be doing that, so you save it for the after party. But just the whole time away to the beaches and that up there, and it's just a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely, and lovely spot, as you say, as well. I suppose sticking then on road racing, but you've always been a fairly consistent rider, like throughout your career, and a place where you had a lot of consistency was down in Macau. Now, unfortunately, never got the win, but you got close on a couple of occasions. What do you think? Because you seem to really excel down in Macau. As I say, you were very consistent. What was it? Was there something in particular about the track that you liked, or was it just luck?
I don't know really. It's just, I guess it's a short circuit, with walls and barriers. The surfaces are pretty good up there. The San Francisco section is really bumpy, but I don't know, just clicked for me, over there. I think racing for so many years at such a high level in British Superbike and 1 year in World Supersport, you're the high level that we're in Superbike, in British level, is, you're nearly crashing at every corner. It's on the limit all the time. So when you go to a road race and you're not with guys that don't used to racing at that level, it feels easier, I guess, which is why now all the top, the top pure road race guys are all now in British Superbike, in the support class or whatever, because they realise you can't be just turning up now. So I think, the success come from just used racing for so many years at a high level, and never got that win, which is a big shame. But I wouldn't change anything for the world. Sometimes it was down to me, and 1 year I was leading by a mile, and the tyre just absolutely disintegrated. But that was a hard year to swallow, because I left the tyre choice up to the tyre manufacturer and my team. And I wanted to go harder tyre, and they said, no, this one will last. And it didn't last by any means distance. So that was a hard year, because I thought, it was not an easy win, but as easy as it gets. And but no, I don't regret anything. And what a place that is. That's on another scale over it again. And I just seem to click with it, because I know some riders have gone over there and not got on with, because the fumes, the pollution, the smog, the atmosphere is so humid, and the smells, and it's a different world, and a lot of riders have gone over there, top, road races, and it's not really been for them, but I just seem to manage with everything over there, and it just clicked.
And so then, as you said previously, in 2018 you kind of announced your retirement. So what's the plan, I suppose, now? Obviously you just said there during the lockdown that you were able to get out on the bike and stuff, so you're still kind of tapping away, I suppose, with the bikes and stuff, even though you're not racing them now anymore.
Yeah. So I sort of stopped racing full time at the end of 2018, and last year I was just going to subby myself out to do a few rides and that, and then ended up going back to a matcher in Finland to do a road race there for Penn's BMW. The German guys there, a good bunch of blokes, but unfortunately we had a bit of a issue coming into one of the roundabouts where I didn't have a front brake, because the track's so high speed and the corners are so slow. Basically the brakes faded. I had no brakes. I had to jump off it. So going over the top of jumping off it and going over the top of the roundabout at quite high speed, shattered my shoulder blade and injured my feet, and so that was the end of the year really. And it was strange, because I sort of wanted to sort of phase my way out of racing, just picking the odd races and that, and then that was the end of that. So it was strange that, and sort of where now my head at, I'm completely done with the racing, the short circuit, and on the roads for sure. But it was quite hard to sort of be finishing like that, sort of with that injury, because it's sort of a big wake up call. You know, I was lucky with the injury because, you know, someone crashed the day before in the same race as me, and, you know, unfortunately didn't make it. So it was a big wake up call. But it was hard to get, you know, it was not an easy year for me last year.
Yeah.
After that accident. You know, I put on quite a bit of weight, was drinking a bit, didn't really have anything to get up and go for in the morning, you know what I mean? Like, you know, my whole life has been racing motorcycles from when I was 6 years old, as long as I can remember. The weekends, off we go racing, you know, and that's what I trained fitness for. And, you know, I've always worked anyway, you know, it's a bit part-time. Some people will argue with that, but that's another conversation. So, yeah, last year, I was quite down, really, like you know, after my accident last year. Didn't really get much to get out of sort of bed for. So, but this year, sort of snapped out of that a bit, and, you know, I mean, I'm back training all the time now. You know, back to my boxing, you know, which I love, and yeah, so it's sort of, you know, I mean, sort of a new life now. But if I was ever going to stop racing, I think, you know, 2018 in hindsight was the best year to do it, because, you know, 2019 at the TT with the weather, you know, the poor guys, it was pretty much of a washout, wasn't it? They managed to get some racing in, but, you know, a poor year for the TT, and obviously with the coronavirus this year, it's been cancelled. So I'm glad I wasn't sort of hanging on thinking, oh, I'll do one more year. You know what I mean? It's sort of a time. You know, now I'm you know, I mean, happy to be out of it. I still watch the British Superbikes, you know, and obviously, you know, Bridewell's a good mate of mine, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, I'm happy now. You know, and it's just a case of, you know, my daughter's really into her motocross. She's at an international level in kickboxing, which hasn't happened this year, obviously, because of the coronavirus, they're not allowed to fight. So, yeah, it's just weekends away, not being a selfish bike racer anymore and concentrate on my family.
Well, thank you very much for that tonight, Martin, and the very best of luck for everything in the future. And I'm sure we'll see you at the Anchor hopefully next year.
Yeah, I'll be there. Don't worry about that.
Northern Ireland. So yeah, thank you, and have a great rest of 2020 if we can with coronavirus. But yeah, stay safe and well, and thank you.
Yeah, and you guys. Cheers.